Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now here. I'm Sammy Taormina, blog around the OAA, the host of Last See Brain Cells, and the host of Between 10 Minutes on Orion Neighborhood Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Neighborhood Television. A lot to look at this week here on the podcast here. We're going to talk a lot track and field this week. Considering we've had two big invitationals. We got one coming up this weekend. We're going to preview that one. Also, we're going to talk and recap last week's Elmer's Ball Invitational that was at Oxford. And there was a lot of OA teams that went to that invitational. So, without further ado, let's look at, let's recap what has been going on at the Elmer's Ball Invitational. We're going to start off with the boys. When you look at this one coming in, you kind of thought about being one of the favorites had to be Rochester Adams. The reason why I saw Adams, because one of their balance, well coached. They've been pretty much running run shot in the red this year. With the way they've been, arguably, when you look at the red in track and field, you kind of starts and ends with Rochester Adams. So really, when you look at with the Highlanders, you kind of thought, okay, this could be the team to do it, But you look at a team like West Bloomfield, with them, the West Bloomfield tradition has been known for the sprints, and they ended up, and you look at with them, this is a very dangerous team. They've done a really nice job. Groves was another team to watch for in this one. Oxford, Lake Orion, Rochester, Stony Creek, Troy Athens, North Farmington, Bloomfield Hills, Ferndale, future member Waterford Kettering, Avondale, future member Waterford Mott, and Berkeley were all the representatives in this invitational that took place. So West Bloomfield ended up winning the boys' side, scoring 69 points. Adams was second with 58. Walled Lake Central was third with 56. Oxford was fourth with 51. Groves was fifth with 46. Lake Orion sixth with 42 points. Rochester was seventh with 35 points. Stony Creek was eighth with 33.5. Troy was tied for ninth with Warren D. LaSalle with 31 points. Troy Athens was 11th with 28.5 points. North Farmington was 13th with 25 points. Farmington was 15th with 19 points. Bloomfield Hills was tied for 19th. Emily City with 11 points. Ferndale was 21st with 6 points. Waterford Kettering was 22nd with 5 points. Avondale was 25th with 3 points. Waterford Mott was tied for 26th, alongside with Berkeley with 2 points each. So let's recap on what went on here. On the men's side. Let's recap what the story here was. And you look at, of course, the 100 meter. We're going to start with the 100 meter. Obviously, Devin James of West Bloomfield winning that one with 10:72 in the final, beating Blaise Farrington of Farmington with 11.4. Junghyun Lee of Rochester Adams was fourth with 11:08. Fernando Baratome of Lake Orion was fifth with 11.10. Alexander DeShashio from Stony Creek was 11:15. Jaden, and of course Noah Ori from Troy, and William Thomas were finishing the outside, looking in 9th and 10th respectively. Ori with 11:28, Thomas 11:29. Jacob Childress of Oxford was 12th with 11.34. Elijah Davis Moore was 13th with 11:39. And that was the OA representation in the 100. So really, West Bloomfield, they got their points, big points in the 100 meter for them. Farmington getting 8. When you look at the invitational part of a track and field meet, it's traditionally different from a dual meet. In a dual meet, first place is 5 points, second place is 3 points, third place is 1 point. If it's a tri-meet, first place is 5 points. Second place is 3 points. Third place is 2 points. Fourth place is 1 point. That's in a tri-meet. But in an invitational or a county setting or a state setting, first place is 10, second is 8, third is 6, fourth is 5, fifth is 4, sixth is 3, seventh is 2, and 8 is 1 point. So that is the top 8 will usually place. And at the Oxford Invitation, the Elmer Ball, usually they go by the top 8 get rewards. So West Bloomfield, good start in the 100 meter. 200 meter, Jason Hamilton of Troy won that one. Devin James, of course, winning the 100 meter, was second 200 with 21.76. You had Herschel McCormick. Farmington took 5th with 22.68. Noah Sanders of Groves was 6th with 22.88. Alexander DeShashio of Stony Creek was 7th with 23.1 with the OA representation. Jacob Childress, again, missing the cut. 9th place with 23.20. Patrick Johnson was 10th for Troy with 23.28. And Jeremiah Mack was 11th for Groves at 23.59. So really in that 200, good win for Troy. But again, another great performance in the sprints for West Bloomfield. So, it kind of starting to get a little bit of a sense here. Obviously, Herschel McCormick getting points for Farmington. Noah Sanders got points. Alexander DeShashio for Stony Creek, he got points as well. So, kind of that for West Bloomfield, you're starting to get a trend here with the sprints. So kind of that interesting dynamic there in that one. 400 meter, of course, there were no finals in the 400. Ethan Benziak of Troy Athens, only a sophomore, took first with 51.56. Chris Campbell from Stony Creek was second with 52.74. Raymond Crawford, West Bloomfield, fourth with 53.14. Jalen Wade of Ferndale was fifth with 53.30. Lucas Haggerty of Groves was sixth with 53.34. Andrew Sabaka was seventh with 53.61. And that was wrapping up the OA scoring there. Graham Ballman from Troy was ninth with 54.39. Andrew Thomas 10th with 54.61 for Adams. Tony Jordan was 11th with 50.46. Carlos Gutron Ortiz from Stony Creek was 12th with 54.90. Cole Shosky of Lake Orion was 14th with 55.14. Salman Elam was 15th with 55.32. Joey Lang from Adams was 55.94. Jason Samples of Pontiac was 19th with 56.04. Jackson Kaplan Randolph was 20th with 56.06. Lucas Moore of Oxford was 23rd with 56.35. Carmelo Tuzono from Farmington was 24th with 56.59. John Hanza from Berkeley was 25th with 56.64. Caden Robson, Watford Kettering, was 26th with 56.74. Andrews Bartolo of Oxford was 27th with 56.93. Judah Shute from Ferndale was 29th with 57.07. Zane Hadid from Waterford Kettering was 30th with 58.16. Jamin Esso from Pontiac was 33rd with 59.32. Brandon McWilliams, Waterford Mott, was 35th with 59.93. Elliot Lingpix from Berkeley was 38th with 1 minute and 19 seconds. Ethan Rim of Avondale was 40th with 1 minute and 24 seconds. Malik Small of North Farmington wrapped up the event, finishing 41st with 1:02.47. So a lot of OA representation in the 400 meter dash on the boys' side. 800 meter. James Churchick of Oxford, 2 minutes and 43 seconds, took first. Kellen Mull of Rochester was second with 2:01.23. Of course, we know Kellen Mull very well, playing basketball at Rochester for Coach Nicobola. Caden Canham of Oxford was third with 2:02.25. So this was a big event for Oxford, scoring 16 points. That was huge for them. Raymond Lucero of Lake Orion was fourth with 2:04.33. Timothy Minefield from Stony Creek was sixth with 2:04.93. Ben Pereira from Farmington was 2:05.15. Ethan Sherrod Watkins, missed the cut at 205.98. Ashton Heckle of Rochester was 12th with 208.03. Alexander Scala of Lake Orion was 13th with 208.29. Jonathan Barcelona of Waterford Mott was 14th with 208.54. Jalen Bannister of Ferndale was 208.59. Griffin Moore was 16th for Troy with 208.71. Wyatt Bolshevik from Avondale was 19th with 212.01. Josh Hillard of Berkeley was 212.14. Owen Lawrence of Bloomfield Hills was 21st with 212.59. And Riley Smith was 25th with 213.38. Zach Solomon of Groves was 27th with 213.73. Luke Shelton of Athens was 28th with 214.13. Ari Verkin of Groves was 29th with 215.60. Asia Kolonsky from Troy was 217.71. Was 32nd. Carson Powell of Avondale was 35th with 222.67. Askew Daru of Adams was 36th with 222.74. Benjamin Leicester was 37th with 223.83. Kayla Schwartz was 38th with 225.05. Evan Beno of Berkeley was 41st with 228.35. Logan Schaffer was 42nd with 228.55. Cooper Vaquero of Waterford Mott was 46 with 240. Colin Leatherwood of Pontiac was 245.41. And Josh Brown was 49th with 258.04 for Pontiac. Joey Cabins, of course, was a scratch. Elijah Sherrod Watkins was also a scratch for West Bloomfield, and Raphael Myers was also a scratch for Ferndale. So that was the 800 meter, the mile. I mean, I know I apologize if I'm boring a lot of people to death here, but, we got to recognize these young athletes here who are on the OAA, especially in this track and field area. You know what I mean? They got to get recognition and love somehow. They really got to. Of course, in the men's 1600 meter, the mile, Alexander MacArthur took second with 4:31.72. Kylan Sheenis of Troy was third with 4:32.64. Julian Brunner of West Bloomfield was fourth with 4:36.35. Alex Hamilton of North Farmington was fifth with 4:37.67. Max Hubner of Lake Orion was 4:38.50. That rounded up the top the scoring there. I mean, Jace Reed missed the cut with 4:40.66. Musa K was 4:43.19. Maxim Moran of Oxford 4:44.18. Jesus Garcia Waterford Mott 4:44.43. William Kelly was 15th for Adams with 4:46.68. Aiden LaVictor was 16th with 4:48.55. James Freeman of Stony Creek was 18th with 4:50.47. Ryan Harpner was 19th for Troy Athens with 4:51.25. Joey Light from Troy was 4:51.91. Logan Ferns of Rochester was 21st with 4:52.52. Connor McGowan of Rochester was 22nd with 4:56.44. Ethan Drury of Groves was 23rd with 4:58.75. Tyler Hensey of Berkeley was 4:58.83. Elliot Herbner of Rochester was 25th with 4:59.65. Jerry Shoka of Bloomfield Hills was 26th with 5 minutes and 6 seconds. Devin Lau of Farmington was 27th, 5 minutes, 28 seconds. And we've had Wyatt Brocha of Avondale was 30th with 5:11.67. Connor Shea of Bloomfield Hills was 5:12.55 for 31st. Lincoln Palmer was 5:14.67 for 32nd. Moose Saxon of Ferndale was 5:15.82. Kayla Shorsick, Waterford Kettering, 5:17.01. Carson Patwell of Avondale was 35th with 5:17.43. Lev Babcock of Berkeley was 37th with 5:20.66. Michael Hedrick of Stony Creek was 39th with 5:23.45. Bailey McLean of Waterford Kettering was 5:27.74. And we got Cooper Vaquel of Waterford Mott, 5:46.86. Josh Brown of Pontiac was 48th with 6:29.13. Benjamin Pereira was scratched from Farmington in the mile. 3,200. Ty Levison won that for Bloomfield Hills, 9:30-135. Dylan Pasco, Rochester was second with 10:06.72. Aiden Bob, Waterford Kettering, 10:15.95. Alex Hamilton, fifth for North Farmington with 10:16.86. Gavin Wilkins of Adams was sixth with 10:22.01. Owen Ricard of Berkeley was 10:22.92. Aiden Schlauback of Stony Creek was 10:24.02, wrapping up the scoring. Leonard Reynold Y of Adams finished ninth with 10:28.13. Jack Dyser of Oxford, 10:28.28. Isaac Clark of Troy, 10:28.31. Connor McLaughlin of Rochester was 10:29.84. Jacob Van Houten of Troy was 15th with 10:39.20. Ethan Krishoff of Oxford was 17th with 10:44.13. Aiden LaVictor of Groves was 18th with 10:46.68. Evan Hunt Waterford Mott was 20th with 10:51.12. Jesus Martinez of West Bloomfield was 21st with 11:07.08. Gabriel Van Gorner Berkeley was 11:08.68. Lucas Hawonsky of West Bloomfield was 23rd with 11:11.15. Ethan Drury was 24th for Groves with 11:11.41 for Groves. Eddie Nolan of Troy Athens, 26th with 11:28.35. Zach McGee of Lake Orion was 27th with 11:34.51. Trevor Meldrum of Lake Orion was 28th with 11:35.46. Moose Saxton was 31st with 12:05.70. Josh Brown and Lincoln Palmer were both scratches in the 2-mile. 110 hurdles. Let's go with the hurdle events. Michael Wilkerson won it for Adams. Lash and Tillison getting 18 points for Rochester Adams, respectively. We know how good Tillison is with Adams in football. Wilkerson, we know, is a very good athlete as well for Rochester Adams. 14:23, 14:78, respectively. Angelo Finney for West Bloomfield took third with 14:86. Jalen Gilmore of North Farmington was fourth with 15:27. AJ Banks was 16:04 for sixth. KJ Schuster was 16:43 for Stony Creek in the 110 hurdle finals. In the 300 finals and the 300-meter hurdle finals, Angelo Finney of West Bloomfield, 39.99. Latcher Tillison of Adams was second with 40.34. Michael Wilkerson of Adams was third with 40.42. Santana Minfield of Stony Creek was fourth with 41.55. Braden Prutz of Oxford was fifth with 41.82. David Upshaw missing the cut with West Bloomfield with 43.45. Jacob Nitzler of Rochester was 11th with 44.43. Ryder Reese of Troy Athens, 12th with 44.97. Bishop Martinez of Groves was 13th with 45.90. Justin Greer Sykes, we know that name very well. 46.64 for Avondale. Took him 15th. AJ Banks was 17th with 47.43. Tyler Thomas of Stony Creek was 19th with 47.71. Frank Zott of Lake Orion was 21st with 48.70. Dwayne Gillens of Oxford was 23rd with 49.45. Trichu Humphrey of Pontiac was 24th with 49.66. Tristan Grau of Lake Orion was 25th with 50.15. Francis McClajak of Troy Athens was 50.60. 26th. 27th was Dwayne Wines of Ferndale, 51.09. Lucas Andrix of Waterford Kettering, 51.35. Then we had Antonio Randall Pontiac, 33rd with 52.99. Kamal Mayberry Jr. was 34th with 53.71. And then the scratches, of course, Razzie Magilli of Rochester, Ryan Everett of West Bloomfield, Antoine Aquani was not was scratched. Brendan Randall was also scratched for Bloomfield Hills. So that was the 300-meter hurdles. The 4x1 before we go to the field events. So 4x1, Groves was second, Farmington was third. Groves 44.19, Farmington 44.26. Troy was fourth with 44.30. Lake Orion was sixth with 44.70. Running up the scoring, Ferndale was 45.68. Ninth, West Bloomfield 10th, 45.78. Adams 46.11. Rochester was 12th with 46.58. Stony Creek was 13th with 46.50. Pontiac 15th with 47.08. Oxford 16th with 47.24. Waterford Kettering was 47.36. And Waterford Mott was 47.91. Taking 18th. 4x2. 4x2. Lake Orion was the best team in the OAA from the OAA side of things. Taking fourth with 134.20. Oxford was fifth with 134.83. Growth was sixth with 135.06. Rochester was seventh with 135.60. Stony Creek missing out in the cut with 138.02. Pontiac was 10th with 138.67. Waterford Kettering was 11th with 139.41. Waterford Mott was 12th with 139.51. Bloomfield Hills was 16th with 144.94. West Bloomfield did not finish. Ferndale was DQ'd. Troy Athens was scratched. Adams was DQ'd. Troy did not finish, which was pretty interesting. Very interesting. A lot of DQs in the 4x2. 4x4, West Bloomfield won that 326.71. Adams second, 327.12. Rochester third with 332.53. Stony Creek was fourth with 333.98. Troy was fifth with 335.90. Oxford was sixth with 337.35. Lake Orion was seventh with 338.72. And then missing out on the cut was Waterford Mott with 351.18. Kettering was 12th with 357.58. Avondale was scratched. Ferndale was DQ'd in that one. 4x8. Excuse me. 4x8. West Bloomfield was first. 809.66. Oxford second. 810.71. West Bloomfield in winning a distance event was really surprising, especially in the 4x8. Really surprising there. Oxford was second, 810.71, as mentioned. Rochester was third, 822.56. Adams was fifth with 836.31. Athens was sixth with 858.47. Lake Orion seventh with 9 minutes 54 seconds. Bloomfield Hills rounded out the scoring with 9:08.05. Ferndale missed out on the cut at 9:15.70. Troy was 10th, 9:18.43. North Farmington was 15th with 10:25.46. Pontiac was 16th with 10:50.24. Waterford Mott missed out on the cut. So interesting there. And then let's go to the field events. Shot put, Groves. Wall Lake Central was very dominant. Amari Harris took fourth for Rochester, 48.875. Spencer Beckman of Stony Creek was fifth with 46.7. Colin Vincent, sixth with 46 feet 1 inch. Caden Rush and Waterford Mott was seventh with 45 feet 10 and a quarter. Rounding out the scoring. Artilla Wilson missed out in the cut with 44.11. Matthew Morrow was 43.325. Trishan Tedrow of Waterford Kettering was 12th with 42.9. Ashwin Sharbashu was 13th with 41.1 and a half. Then Matthias Andrew was 39.4, 17th. Dwayne Broom was 18th with 39.2 and a half. Demetrius Mant of Kettering was 19th with 39.1 and a half. Rourke Stevens was 20th with 39 and a quarter. Noah Ori was 21st with 39 and a quarter. Micah Reddick of North Farmington was 38.10. Sebastian Young, Seabass, 38.3 and a half was 24th. Jose Moreno was 38.5. James Samanis was not in the decision. Mac Dentry was not mentioned. Jane Burrell was not mentioned for Lake Orion. Ringar Stirling was not there. Deontay Jones of Pontiac was not there. Austin Holt was not there. Derek Schley was not there. Aaron Henderson was not there. Cation Shaw was not there. Dallas Coleman was not there for Pontiac. Gavin DeCurr was not there. Tarzar Jackson for Lake Orion was not there. Von Hopner at Farmington was not there. Rounding out the shot put results there. In the discus, Ray Araka continues his dominance through 186.4. Winning that one. Artell Wilson was third with 150.10. Jeremiah Benson was fourth with 146 for West Bloomfield. Jane Burrell for Lake Orion through 145.10 was fifth. Ryan Yoder of Groves with 145.3. And Stephen Wilkerson rounded out the scoring for Adams with 138.6. Micah Reddick of North Farmington with 137.9 at ninth place. Amari Harris through 131.3 for Rochester, taking 10th. Ashwin Shabeshi from Farmington was 11th with 127.9. Joel Evans was 126.1. Kayshan Shaw with Avondale was 121.3. Violent Haffey of Troy Athens was 115.2. Was 15th. Spencer Beckman was 112. Trishan Tirico for Waterford Kettering was 18th with 110.8. Charles Chapman, Pontiac, Colin Barr was not mentioned. Von Hopner was a scratch. Kane Russell was no decision. Dylan Putcher was no decision. Garrett Sheffield was no decision. Ronald Shelby was no decision. Eli Curry was scratched. Aaron Henderson was no decision. Derek Slay was no decision. Caleb Gibson was not mentioned. Edward Barkman was no decision. Gavin DeKirky was not a mention for Water Vermont. Josh Richardson, Mac Dentry, both were no decisions for Oxford. And Carlos Sano and Seth for Pontiac and Seth Payne for Rochester were all non-decisions in the discus. High jump. Obviously, Josh Carroll took second for Athens, jumping 6 feet. Jonathan Maxter also jumped 6 feet, but took third. Noah Depot of Oxford took fourth with 5.10. Colin Metzges of Oxford took 5.7. KJ Schuster of Stony Creek was tied for 6th with 5.7. Rounding out the scoring there, Emilio Kennedy of Stony Creek was 10th with 5.7. Alex Demanio of Lake Orion was 5.7. Christopher Laughlin of Berkeley was 5.4. Brendan Jones, 5.4 from West Bloomfield. Joey Lang was also 5.4 from Adams. Felly Kermit of Adams was Bloomfield Hills was 5.4. And then of course Jeremiah Jones was a scratch. Ben Rupert was a scratch. Dwayne Gillens didn't make height. Calvin Hamilton didn't make height. Matt White was scratched. And Javante Anderson was scratched. And Bryce Ferguson was scratched. Greg Bonner of Kettering didn't make height. Chase Penn was scratched. Devin Chamis didn't make height. Jaden Barnes of Kettering was scratched. Tori Robinson of Waterford Mott. Rockford Troy of Toddy of West Bloomfield. Noah Rose of Lake Orion. Reggie Hinton of Bloomfield Hills were all didn't make height. Jack Brancher was scratched. Victor Graham was scratched. Malcolm Mott was scratched. And Brandon Shepard did not make height for Rochester Adams. So pole vault, Nolan Rhodes continued Lake Orion's dominance there, 13 feet. Tyler Moran was 5th with 11.6. Spencer Moore of Oxford 6th with 11 feet. For Oxford. So, and of course, Tobin Cole did not make height for Farmington. So that's the boys. Pole vault, long jump. Paul Hubbard, of course, continuing with his dominance, 22 feet, 6.25 for Groves. Christian Wilson was 3rd with 20 feet, 11 for Athens. Lasher Tillison was 4th with 20.6. Andrew Lake was 5th for Troy with 20.28. Chris Little was 6th with 20 feet, 1.25. Gary Maxwell from Ferndale was 7th with 19.3.5, round out the scoring. Joe Evans missed the cut for West Bloomfield, 18.8 Elijah Davis Moore for Ferndale was 10th with 18.8.5. Justin Greer Sykes was 12th with 18.62.5. Jim Anessa Pontiac was 14th with 18.4.5. Colin Bauer of Adams was 15th with 18.4. Ryan Christian of Troy was 19th with 18.3. Chris Campbell, Stony Creek, 18.1.5. Noah Leopold was 18 feet for Oxford, 21st. Anders Bartow of Oxford was 18 feet as well for 22nd. Gavin Ropeland of Waterford Kettering was 17.11.5. Jonathan Maxter of Farmington was 17.11.5, 24th. Chance Burke of Farmington was 17.11. Anthony Burton was 17.7.5. KJ Schuster of Stony Creek was 28th with 17.5.5. Andre Vasso was 17.5.5. 5.5 for Athens for 29th. Hadron Stanch of Rochester was 17.2.5 for 30th. Durajo Coley of Farmington was 16.8 for Farmington, 32nd. Tristan DePonio of Farmington was 34th, 16.6. Max Findler, 35th for Waterford Kettering, 16.5 and a half. Reggie Hitton was 16.1 for Bloomfield Hills. Josh Hunter was 38 with 16 and a half for West Bloomfield. Nick Digpen of Waterford Mott was 15.9 and a half. And the scratches were Al Magic Pontiac. And Jalen Chambers of North Farmington, Jamari Cooper, Ben Laco of Lake Orion, Philip Gordon of Bloomfield Hills, Carter Alexander Waterford Mott were all scratches. So that's the boys part of it. The girls side of it, obviously, I mean, like when we we look at the 100 meter on the girls side. We look at it in the 100 meter on the girls side. Cameron Tatum, real deal, 12:07. Nicole DeCosta, Berkeley third with 12:61. Got and Lacey Jahu of Troy Athens, 12.72. Lauren Mocker was 12:84. Issy Ukabale of West Bloomfield, 12:90. Missing the cut was Lexi McDonald from Lake Orion, 13.02. Sheridan Webster of Groves was 13:16. Alyssa Stevens of Adams was 13:17. Elsie Kessa of Stony Creek was 13.25. Michelle Morani of Adams was 14th with 13.26, and Jenna Ingebrett of Lake Orion was 13.39. That rounded out the final scoring there. Again, top 8 scoring there. Again, the top 8 scoring there in that one. 200 meters. 200 meters in the girls. Massey Porosky of Athens was first, 25.93. Nicole DeCoster was second. Naja Williams of Ferndale was third with 26.62. Lanaya Daniel was fifth, 26.66 Rochester. Dana Pearson of Ferndale was 26.89. Blessing Nowicki of Berkeley was seventh with 26.98. And Zoe Moss of Lake Orion was eighth with 27.11. Missing the cut, Lauren Goings of Bloomfield Hills, 27.59. Lauren Goings of Groves was 27.59. Jana Barber of Waterford Kettering was 10th with 27.83. Lauren Mocker was 11th for Oxford. And, of course, Cameron Tatum was scratched for West Bloomfield. So it was tough there. 400 meter. 400 meter. I know I apologize for everybody here. It's not myself here, but, just got to make sure these kids, these student athletes get recognized, especially those in the OAA. Sloan Schuyler of Bloomfield Hills was second with 59.65. Abby Nearing of Lake Orion was third with 59.71. Liam Marsh of West Bloomfield was seventh with 102.53. And Naja Williams rounded out the scoring with 102.54. Blessing Nowicki missed out on the cut at 102.70. Mia Snellgrove of Rochester was 102.86. Ellie McMahon of Adams was 104.43. Lola Gray was 12th with 105.55. Elizabeth Hetu of Lake Orion, 150.80. Valia Martinez Sharena of Adams was 14th with 105.83. Shanna Tudor of Troy with 106.44. Cheyenne Weems of North Farmington, 106.59. Kendall Brown was 18th for Groves, 106.65. Kaylee Union of Ferndale was 22nd, 107.60. Audrey Dixon of Waterford Kettering was 23rd, 108.89. Olivia Maneski of Waterford Mott was 108.11. Jan Parker Troy was 25th with 108.22. Ellie Sisa of Stony Creek was 108.23.26. Jenna Mills of Waterford Kettering, 109.23. Catherine Lawler of Oxford, 29th with 111.19. Chloe Harrison of West Bloomfield, 114.15. Stacy Page of Pontiac was 32nd with 114.68. And you got Ezra Armbuster of Groves, 118.13 for Groves, 36. And then scratches were Kamau Jenkins of Waterford Mott and Ani Peoples of Pontiac. And that was the 400 meter. 800 meter, the 2 mile. The 2 mile here on the girls' side. Let's see. We got Mallory Bigelow of Oxford took third with 2:59.57. Ella Abraham of Rochester was fourth with 2:19.17. Caitlin Cuppa of Adams was fifth with 2:19.77. Caitlin Parrish of Farmington was seventh with 2:23.63. And Sienna Champlain of Oxford was 2:26.44. Missing out on the cut was Cora Lou of North Farmington with 2:27.38. Lauren Ritz of Lake Orion 2:29.31. Amy Moore of Troy 2:41.25. Valerie Diaz Miranda 2:41.79. Alexa Trello of Troy was 17th with 2:42.54. Madeline Conrose of Adams was 2:42.85. Sydney Leaf of Bloomfield Hills was 2:44.83. A restaurant of Waterford Kettering was 20th with 2:45.37. Valenta Mansour was 2:48.16. Leah Krunsky was 2:50.05. Violet Milaski of Berkeley was 24th with 2:51.48. Olivia Moransky was 2:52.76. Jenna Pohl was 2:57.79 for North Farmington. Melissa Fangmawa of West Bloomfield was 2:59.84. Alexa Kamau of Waterford Mount was 3:08.84. And then, of course, with the scratches, of course, London Craighead, Stacy Page of Pontiac, Mercy Clark of Pontiac, Ren Thompson, Nia Hall of Lake Orion were all scratches in the event. So that was the 800. The mile. So when you look at the mile here, of course, Mallory Bigelow won that one, 5:16.23. Cora Rue was third with 5:33.85 for North Farmington. Natalie Meldrum, former thrower of mine. Of course, I coached her as a shot putter at Scripps. She took fourth, 5:41.70. Olivia Jennings, 5:44.40. Alex Abakan of Farmington to 5:46, ran 5:46. Valerie Diaz Miranda rounded out the top 8 at 5:46.57. Again, top 8 score in these meets. Allison Murray was left out in the cut with 5:46.72. Madeline Carcone of Adams was 5:48.54. Sarah Stein of North Farmington was 12th with 5:49. Maddie Miller was 5:49.11. Lydia Bellini was 5:54.85. Jenna Rivera was 5:57.74. 17th, Victoria McGougal was Farmington with 6 minutes, 43 seconds. Matilda Mountain was 20 for Berkeley, 6:54. Maridel was 22nd with 6:12.08. Lily Lemberg was 6:14.43 for Rochester. Elena Esso of Rochester was 6:14.57. Hannah Ursing of Oxford was 6:17.82 with 27th. Mia Boland was 28th with 6:19.26. Maddox Lewiston was 29th with 6:19.36. Vika Rocco of Lake Orion was 6:21.27. Savannah Astros of Bloomfield Hills was 32nd with 6:24.07. Leah Tobin of Troy was 33rd with 6:25.79. Skylar Rojas of West Bloomfield was 36th with 6:38.17. Christina Deanne of West Bloomfield was 6:43.21, 38th. Alyssa Kemma of Waterford Mount was 6:43.64. Alexa Mann was 41st with 6:56, 31 for Waterford Mott. Haley Fisher of Avondale was 44th with 7 minutes and 9 seconds and 31 seconds. So that was the girls' mile. So the next one here is the 3,200 meter, and next one here is the 3,200 meter here. So just waiting, of course. Thank you. Special shout out to athletic.net here for posting the scores here of all the results here. So special shout out to them. Kira Magner of Farmington was first with 11:38. Paige Raha Farmington was 11:38. Paige Raha Berkeley was second with 11:41. Audrey Hamilton at Troy, 11:52.95 was third. Cecilia Crater of Adams was fourth with 11:59.72. Stephanie Bua of Rochester was 12:11.75. Olivia Jennings of Bloomfield Hills was 12:15.81. Tessa Koloski of Stony Creek was seventh with 12:16.23. Rounding out the OA scoring there. Ladia Bow was left off the score sheet with 12:42.88 for Oxford. Rachel Wilshies of Bacchus of Berkeley was 10th with 12:44.89. Julia Warrington of Oxford was 12:49.53. Myron Gravy of Rochester was 12:51.51 for Rochester. Avery Storm for Troy with 12:56.36. Both those three girls, Warrington, Gravy, and Storm, all freshmen this year. So that tells you the future is bright within this league. Abby Spencer was 14th with 13:11.63 for Farmington. Jenna Rivera Groves was 13:21.12. Maher Dow of Athens was 13:29.49, 17th for Athens. Caroline Simpson of Stony Creek was 13:35.94. Mia Bolin was 13:37.58 for Groves. Savannah Ashurst of Bloomfield Hills was 21st with 14:05.13. Caroline Fernandez of West Bloomfield was 14:19.18. Christina Dan was 14:39.47. Rounding out the scoring for rounding up the places here. Scratches. Bettina Mansour with Athens. Haley Fisher of Avondale were scratches in the 2 mile. Now let's go to the 110 hurdles. Of course, when you look at the on the girls' side of things here, on the girls' side here, it's okay. Hang on here. 110 hurdles here. Okay. 1 meter hurdles. On the girls' side here. I apologize for the loading here. Sabrina DiMaggio was second for Lake Orion, 15 seconds. Kaylee Hoffman Adams was fourth with 16:05. Georgie Dungren of Troy was fifth with 16:17. Taylor Berder of Oxford, 16:17. And Gabrielle Robinson rounded out the scoring for Athens with 16:80. 300 hurdles in the final here. Okay. And Greta Koltrick of Lake Orion, 47.96. Of course, we know how good Greta has been. Koltrick's been. Remember when she was at Oakview, very, very talented player. Taylor Berder was third for Oxford, 49.61. Georgie Jungman of Troy was fourth with 49.84. Hannah Childress of Adams was sixth with 51.05. Olivia Bagnerson of Lake Orion was seventh with 51.71. Caroline Labaka was eighth for Stony Creek with 51.93. Missing the cut, Jalen Kirkley of Farmington was 52.45. Remy Shirley-Comer was 52.70. Kaylee Huffman was 13th for Adams, was 53.51. Audrey Henkel of Rochester was 13th with 54.75. Jenna Bishop was 14th with 55.02. Emma Moore was 15th with 55.26. Isabella Tavochu of North Farmington was 16th with 56.05. Isadora Freeman Nix for West Bloom was 18th with 56.54. Samantha Sulak of Troy Athens was 20th with 57.84. Aubrey Woodman of North Farmington was 101.83 for 22nd. Raylan Short, Waterford Kettering was 103.11 for them. Alexis Davis was 103.88 for 24th, rounding out the scoring for the league for representing Waterford Kettering. 4x1, got to look at, obviously, West Bloomfield winning that, obviously. Rochester second, Lake Orion third, Groves fourth, North Farmington fifth, Troy sixth, Oxford seventh, Adams eighth. Stony Creek missed out on the cut, 55.08. Rounding out that one. Waterford Mott was 15th, 57.16. Ferndale was 16th with 57.25. Troy Athens 17th, 58.51. Pontiac was 59.36. Rounding out that scoring for the league. In that one, 4x2, West Bloomfield, of course, winning that one again. The dominant sprinting that they've had this year. Berkeley was third with 150.70. Rochester fourth was 150.85. Lake Orion was fifth with 151.14. Farmington sixth, 151.15. Grove seventh with 151.78. Adams run out the scoring at 152.31. Stony Creek was ninth, 154.89. Oxford 10th, 155.53. Troy was 13th, 158.79. North Farmington 14th, 159.52. Troy Athens 17th with 204.10. Pontiac was 18th, 204.69. Waterford Mott was 19th with 205.46, running out that scoring. 4x4, 4x4, we got, of course, Rochester was second with 4:11.26. Lake Orion was third with 4:12.32. Troy was fifth, 4:19.77. Oxford was sixth at 4:24.68. Adams was seventh, 4:28.36. Bloomfield Hills rounded out the scoring at 4:30.65. Waterford Kettering was ninth with 4:36.29. Troy Athens 12th with 4:58.93. West Bloomfield getting DQ'd was surprising. Waterford Mott was 14th with 5:16.84 in that one. So West Bloomfield getting DQ'd in that one. Surprising there. 4x8. The 4x8. Rochester winning that one, obviously, when you have Lucy Cook in there. That's gonna. She's a difference maker for Rochester. 9:44.70 there. Adams second. 9:53.07 was second. Lake Orion fourth with 10:33.95. Troy was fifth with 10:34.95. West Bloomfield was seventh with 12:12.72, rounding out the scoring. Pontiac, of course, was scratched with the relay team. So that was the scoring in the 4x8. Shot put. Ellie Mendoza, Actually, no, she took second. I was surprised here. Ariel Thomas Webb took 36-3 for Pontiac. Big upset there. Ellie Mendoza, the way she's been throwing all year long, she's been really, really good for Rochester. Mendoza took second. Thomas Webb took first. Tegan O'Connor from Oxford was 32.8 in three quarters. Run out. And Gabrielle McCauley of Berkeley was 30 feet 6, running out the scoring there. Ellie Fago of Rochester was 28.875. Kiana Jordan of Bloomfield Hills was 10th with 29 feet. Elise Taylor was 28.6. Madison Bose Nespo of Lake Orion was 12th with 28.5 and a quarter. Mahari Brooks of West Bloomfield was 28.5. Emily Atkins of Lake Orion was 15th with 27.10 and a half. Nadia Hapner of Adams was 16th with 27.10. Micaiah Jenrich of Stony Creek was 27.9. Laz Sheriff of West Bloomfield was 27.6 for 18th. Tempe Crest was 19th with 27.5 and three quarters. Sydney Dabrowski of Stony Creek was 20th with 27.4 and a half. Autumn Tully was 26.11 for Berkeley. Ashton Noprit was not mentioned. Summer Carr was not there. Shelby Sidlock, Deanna of Waterford Kettering, Deanna Hardnell, Casey Barlow of Oxford, Micah Smith were scratched. Lily Ramirez, Maya Hesbeck, Zara Johnson, Sarah Alexander, Annabelle Babuian, and Lola Foltz were all scratches or not measured. Discus, Ellie Mendoza winning that one, 133-1. Eddie Murray King, 123 for Farmington. Kayla Wagla was for Rochester was 100 feet 10 inches, was fourth. Layla Sharp was 99.10 for sixth. Mary Brooks was 99.3 for Farmington. Tegan O'Connor wrapped up the scoring for Oxford at 97.8. Gabby McCauley was 82.3 for Berkeley. Ellie Mantuza for Troy was 79.2. Cindy Dorosky was 76.8 for Stony Creek. Casey Bartlow was 76.3. Lillian Ramirez was 75.2 for North Farmington. Addie Bowen never measured. Kristen Franklin never measured. Summer Carr, no decision. Autumn Tilly was not, no decision there. And then Grace Martin for Waterford Kettering, no decision. Sullivan Simmons was scratched. Rachel Shelf was scratched. Anna White was not mentioned. Shelby Sidlock was no decision there. Annabelle Babuian never measured. Isabel Moore never measured. Ariana Thomas Webb was no decision. Elena Mansour was no decision. Emily Atkins was no decision for Lake Orion. Julia Yoler was no decision. And Kiana Jordan was no decision there. So that was the discus. High jump. High jump here. Clara Labasca was second for Stony Creek, 4:10. London Women of Athens was third with 4:10. Molly Hedner was fourth with 4:7. Katie Bowen was 4:7 for Adams. Marie Antoine Thomas was 4:7. Alana McCall of Kettering was 4:7. Kara Gold of Adams was 4:7. Payne Nerdis was 4:4 for Oxford. Missed out on the scoring there. Aubrey Henkel for Rochester, 4:4. Lenny O'Barker for Athens was 4:4. Violet Kepner was 4:4. And Nadia Drum was 4:4. Katie Lyons was scratched. Jenna Bishop didn't make height. Alexis Mockler was scratched. Tiana Hopkins Bartlett was scratched for West Bloomfield. Bronson for Ferndale. Cora Lee for North Farmington didn't make height. Micaiah Redmond didn't make height. For Lake Orion, Hannah Roberts didn't make height. Elizabeth Warner was scratched for Rochester. Pole vault. Sabrina DiMaggio winning that one for Lake Orion, 10 feet 6. Olivia Magnuson was fourth with 8.6. Round out the scoring for Lake Orion. Ella Barron was 7 feet for Farmington. Deanna Arvid Vox was scratched, and Jaden Carnazzo from Farmington did not make height in the pole vault. And then last but not least here, I know I've been talking about this for a while, but you know what I mean? But I have to recognize every athlete here in the OAA. So please bear with me here. The long jump here, Annie Lou of Adams was second with 16.4. Amanda Morgan of Rochester was third with 15.8. Olivia Benedictson of Lake Orion was fourth with 15.7. Samantha Koch with 15.6. Lily Aldo of Athens was sixth with 15.5. Sorrenti Ketcha of Ferndale was seventh with 15.45. Allison Stevens of Farmington, was 15.425. Jenna Abrat missed the cut at 15.325. Erica Proctor was 10th with 15.225. Alaya Williams of Waterford Mott was 11th with 14.11. Gabrielle Williams was 14.675 was 15th. Christina Colson of West Bloomfield was 16th with 14.6. Isabel Moore of Troy was 14.5.5 for Troy. Raylan Short, Waterford Kettering, 14.275 for Waterford Kettering. Ellie Sessa was 14.2, 20 for Stony Creek. Olivia Jackson was 21st with 14.1. Liz Shakar of Adams was 22nd with 14.025 and a quarter. Leonie Watcham of Oxford was 24th with 13.5. Jenna Bishop was 25th with 13.275. Addison Lamari of Waterford Kettering was 26th with 13.1 and a half. Addison Lynch was 28th, 12.9 a quarter. Maddie Suklitz was 29th for Farmington with 12.475. Addison Lynch was 28th with 12.925. Cora Lee was 30th with 11.925. And Kaylin Humes was 10.5.25. London Lunchroom was scratched for Troy Athens. Dana Pearson was scratched for Ferndale. And that wraps up that scoring. So in the results, obviously on the boys' side, West Bloomfield winning that one. The girls, it was really tight between Ann Arbor, Huron, Lake Orion, and Rochester. Ann Arbor Huron ended up winning that in the girls' side. So that was a big, big win for them. So that was the entire Elmer Ball Invitational on a podcast. So kind of, you know what I mean? So kind of really interesting how that one went, you know what I mean? Great Invitational. We're going to preview the Farmington Invitational coming up here this weekend. Obviously, some really good teams there. Berkeley will be there. Bloomfield Hills will be there. You're going to have Farmington, Ferndale will be there. Lake Orion will be there. Oak Park will be there. Of course, Oak Park, we know how good they are. All the Rochester will be there. Adams, Stony Creek. Rochester will be there. Royal Oak will be there. Troy will be there. And West Bloomfield will be there. So it should be a really interesting meet over there at Farmington this weekend in the one of the most interesting tournaments, the Farmington Invitational. It's an e-qualifier, so that should be really interesting to see how that one goes. And then other invitationals to look at this weekend, obviously. There's some others which should be really interesting here as well. Obviously you look at what where Clarkson's going. They're going to Davison this weekend at the Davison Twilight Classic, which is really interesting over there. So that should be really interesting. They're going to be with Davison. I mean, they got Clarkson there. So that should be really interesting for them going out there, competing with some of the top teams in the North. So, I think they'll be in some good competition there with them. So it'll be something to really watch for. I'll be curious to see how the invitationals look on the track side of things, considering, where we've been when it comes to the season, heading in the track season. So there's a lot to really look forward to as we get closer on to the league play, as we get closer on to regionals. I mean, coming up, we got the leagues coming up pretty soon. So we're getting in that final stretch of the league in track and field. So, so we'll see what happens going forward. So it'll be something to really keep an eye on as we head forward into the final stretches. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Keeping an eye on the basketball situations over at Stony Creek, Berkeley, A&T and the boys, Ferdale and the girls. So once we find out more information, we'll update everybody around the league how that goes. Keeping an eye a lot on baseball, softball, soccer, etc. So we'll see what happens going forward as we head into the middle parts of the spring season. We're getting really close in the month of May. So a lot to look forward to. So we'll see what happens going forward as we head into the what I call the middle part of spring season, getting closer to, graduations and, and everything going around the league. So wish everybody the best of luck this week around the league, and we'll see what happens going forward. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Take care, God bless, and I'll see you on next week. All right, take care, God bless, and I'll see you then. See y'all next week.